Yo, what's good everyone? 5.2 is out next week, and with the release of 2 new characters and a few weapons, a lot of units are getting buffed. Stick around for the whole video because there are some unexpected surprises. There are some buffs to elemental reactions as well, so for anyone skipping the 5.2 units so we can save for Mawika and Granny, there are some characters in here for you too. Let's get the most obvious one out of the way first. Neuvillette is receiving a buff he did not need whatsoever. As of right now, most people consider his best team to be Farina, Kazuha, and one of Xilonen or Zhongli. Let's say you wanted the shield Zhongli offers but don't need Kazuha's grouping. Auroron gives Neuvillette another teammate, and with him holding 4P scroll, he's going to provide the 40% elemental damage we lose by dropping Kazuha. Even though he won't be able to shred like Kazuha does, he will deal damage and provide Neuvillette with a little energy. With Electro Charge getting a buff, it makes Electro characters even more viable for Neuvillette. You could even keep Kazuha and save Farina for the other half of your best run. With Auroron being an emo, no, not the element, and Neuvillette making it rain often, they can meet up for a cuddle and a cry. The character that benefits the most from 5.2 is probably Farina. She's in all of Chasca's strongest teams right now, as well as several of Auroron's strongest teams. Starting with Chasca, she's better off using charge attacks rather than normal attacks. This means units like Xingqiu and Yelan aren't ideal, so with Farina dealing off-field damage regardless of what the on-field is doing, as well as providing a buff from a fanfare, she's the perfect unit for Chasca. With Electro Charge getting buffed in 5.2, running Farina in Electro Charge teams is a new use for her that most people haven't bothered with up to now. Auroron holding 4P scroll adds another ingredient to the mix there and means, rather than relying on single target units like Fischl, you can maybe go for an AoE duo like Auroron and Beidou. With Farina liking desserts and Auroron having a squirrel in his idols, maybe they can make a squirrel pie. Let's get some more interesting units in here. Heizo, Sergeant Shitpants himself, the Diarrhea Detective, the Poo Police. He's getting some buffs in 5.2. Unfortunately, he's keeping the brown pants, but with Electro Charge getting a buff and it being one of his better team archetypes, there's more reason to run him now. The biggest issue with Electro Charge is it scales off the elemental mastery of whoever triggers it, but with Hydro and Electro application being so constant, you never know who is triggering it and who to build elemental mastery on. Shitlock Holmes solves the case as per usual by giving the entire team 80 elemental mastery with his passive. Auroron's introduction means you have more options, and if you can grab Auroron C6 at some point, he's also going to give Heizo some attack, which his damage scales off. This is appreciated because Auroron's 4P scroll doesn't do anything for Heizo's animo damage. Also, with Auroron's burst being a taunt, despite them being awkward, does give another tiny layer of sustainability by drawing enemy attacks. This means it's less risky to run no dedicated sustain units and opt for Xingqiu and Beidou instead. With Heizo speculated to be getting a rerun in 5.2, these buffs are very welcome. Sucrose is in a similar situation too. She's like Heizo but with less personal damage in exchange for more crowd control and more elemental mastery for the team. People used to run Sucrose, Fischl, Xingqiu and Beidou as a competitive team, but unfortunately it's fallen off with us having stronger on-field units like Neuvillette and Arlecchino. These Electro Charge buffs likely won't bring the team up to a meta level, but if it can get close in AoE situations, it could be worth dusting your Sucrose off. Electro Charged isn't the only reaction getting a buff in 5.2. We'll talk about the others in a minute, but Sucrose being able to give the team elemental mastery from 2 of the passives does open the door for some interesting teams in the future. If we ever get an elemental mastery based cryo unit that applies a lot of cryo, Sucrose could be useful in a superconduct team where you ignore physical and literally just focus on triggering superconduct. The potential is there, but we're severely lacking the units to accommodate it, so it's not something you'd want to do as of right now. In 5.1, we all got a free copy of Candace, my favourite character design in the game. If you have Farina and Xianyun, you already know how strong her plunge teams can be. What she's been missing is a true filler for the flex slot. I juggle between Yelan and Xilonen, but Auroron's a solid choice too. He's an extra source of damage and his passive is going to give Candace some energy so she can build a little less in her artifacts. I'm kinda hoping we can get an off-field pyro unit that can apply pyro quick enough for Candace and Farina to both vape. I think that's the only thing stopping Candace Plunge from being a genuine meta contender. Until then, Auroron's a decent option for the flex slot even at C0, but he's gonna get better and better in this side as you pick up more constellations. Side note, Candace, Farina and Auroron all have heterochromic eyes. One more and we've got a full team. Okay, let's have a proper look at some of these other reactions getting buffed. Overloaded's getting a buff which I guess benefits Chevrolet's teams, but she's more of a buffer for raw damage dealers in Pyro and Electro teams rather than buffing the Overloaded reaction itself. One of the best Overloaded triggers in the game right now is Cookie. Before the introduction of Dendro in 3.0, Overloaded was one of Cookie's strongest teams where you just stack Elemental Mastery on it and apply a bunch of Pyro. Obviously, Hyperbloom put all that to bed, but these Overloaded buffs might actually bring it back. It's nice for newer players too that might not have too many Dendro options. Aroron might provide Cookie with another niche use. So in order for Aroron to trigger the attack from his passive, he first needs to build up Night Soul points by a teammate triggering Night Soul Burst or a Hydro or Electro teammate hitting opponents. He then spends these points to trigger the attack from his passive when an opponent takes Electro charged or Night Soul aligned damage. Cookie will work as the Electro unit to hit opponents and help build the Night Soul points, and then you just need either an Atlan or Hydro on-fielder to help Aroron spend them. Surprisingly, Kanich will actually work in this role. It's nice for him because it gives him a team outside of Burning, and Cookie can either hold Deepwood or Tenacity to buff him. I think Cookie will only get more value in this role as we get more Natlan DPSs too. Another sustain unit getting a new team is Layla. There aren't many scenarios where she'd be your chosen sustain unit, so it's nice that she's getting another team with the addition of Chasca. She can hold 4-piece Tenacity to give Chasca some attack, and his C4 is a nice damage bonus too. There are some weapons she can hold that have buffing potential. Freedom Swan can give the team some attack and Chasca some charge attack damage, and Shalonen's weapon can give the team elemental damage. For those that like to experiment with meme teams, the event weapon could be good as a free-to-play option for those that want to run Layla as an on-field DPS. I don't recommend it because her multipliers aren't great, and there just aren't many situations where it'd be useful, but the option's there if you wanted to experiment. Going less experimental and more familiar, we have Kokomi. She works as a Hydro option for Chasca teams, although not a great one, but she does benefit from Aroron, the Electro charge buffs, and the new Gacha weapon. The weapon at R5 gives 61% energy recharge as well as 40% HP after using a skill, and up to 48% HP if you run her with another Hydro unit. Even without the weapon though, Aroron buffs her by being able to hold 4-piece scroll. I like Kokomi in Mono Hydro, but with Aroron, Taser might give it an Aro run for its money. 5.2 is looking like a buff for 2.1 because both Kokomi and Raiden are getting buffs. Aroron gives Raiden some Electro charged options. He could also be the flex in a Raiden Chevrolet team to give 4-piece scroll, and the Overloaded buffs give Raiden another use as an off-field reaction unit. So in the Chevrolet Overloaded teams, you'd run Raiden on a normal DPS build, but the Overloaded buffs mean you could build a full Elemental Mastery and have it be an off-field trigger instead. To those wanting a hybrid, the Battle Pass Polearm Ballad of the Fjords gives 27.6% crit rate, and at R5 gives 240 Elemental Mastery when there are 3 elements in the team, so you have some room to cook here. Just don't let Raiden near the stove with that passive. Shatter's getting a buff in 5.2, but you'll have to build a unit for Elemental Mastery to benefit from it. People thought maybe Fremine would benefit from it, but with him not being built for Elemental Mastery he won't. So are there any units in the game that you do build Elemental Mastery on that also have heavy hits to trigger Shatter? An unlikely beneficiary of the Shatter buff is Kaveh. You're gonna run him with Hydro anyway for Bloom, you want Elemental Mastery on him because that's what he scales off, now you just need a Cryo teammate. I don't think there are any optimal ones, but if you want more sustain, Diona's C6 gives him 200 Elemental Mastery. You could maybe run Kaya or Rosaria with 4-piece Instructor to give him more Elemental Mastery, but realistically, it's gonna be a meme team rather than a genuinely good one. If you're running with Nahida, your Elemental Mastery needs are pretty much sorted, but you need a Cryo unit to give the team some value, and there just aren't any genuinely good options right now. Maybe Seat Lally will be the answer. People are speculating she'll be playable in 5.3, so it won't be long until we find out. Overall, 5.2 is looking like a good patch for those that like experimenting with different characters. I much prefer having 2 new characters rather than just one like we did in 5.1. If you liked this video, I dropped in-depth guides for Chasca and Aroron over the weekend with builds and teams. I'll be dropping up-to-date guides on Hazo and some other surprises soon too. Subscribe to the channel if you're interested in those, and take it easy.